Hi, this is our week 4 maths homework questions. We'll be doing some revision and focusing on multiplication. So please write these questions down and have a go first, and then you can double check your answers as we go through the lesson. All right, so for the first question, it says, first write an expression and then calculate the following. So here we've got, for A, 5 less than 20. We learned that less than relates to subtraction. Just make this work. Relates to subtraction. Now, we have to make sure we get the order correct. So 5 less than 20, we would have 20 first and then take away 5. So there's our expression. We've answered the first part of the question, and then we've got to calculate that. Now, 20 take away 5 will give me, I'll just squeeze it here, will give me 15. And that's a positive 15. If you had 5 take away 20, you would have got a result of a negative 15, which is actually incorrect. So order is very important. So just remember, it's 20 first and then take away 5. Now with B, the difference of 120 and 50. We learned this keyword difference just means the space between two numbers. So I could work out the space between these two numbers using addition. To get from 50 to 120, I would need 50 to get to 100 plus 20, so that's 70. So the difference is 70, just the space between them. But because we have to write an expression and show that number sentence, we use subtraction. So difference relates to subtraction in maths because we can use subtraction to find the difference of any numbers. Now, the rule you have to remember is this. You must have the larger number, so larger, take away smaller. You must have the larger number first, take away the smaller to find the difference. So in this example, we've got 120, which is larger. So I'll just squeeze it here. 120, take away 50. There's my expression. And then 120 take away 50 leaves me with 70. So the expression should have had 120 first. All right, now 8 from 10. Another keyword is from. We do see this in maths quite a bit, and it's important to get the order correct. 8 from 10, you should have had 10 first and then 8 from that. So 10, take away 8. 8 from 10, if I took away 8 lollies from 10, it will leave me with 2. So you just squeeze in 2 there. So make sure it was 10 first. All right. D, the product of 3 and 9. We learnt this keyword product, and we know it relates to multiplication. And product is the answer when we multiply 2 or more numbers. So in this case, I have to multiply the 3 and 9 together. So I've got 3 times 9, and that will leave me with 27. And that's it. Now E, we've got double 50. Double, we know what double means, I guess, in real life. So if I want to double 50, I can go 50 plus 50. But we learned in maths, we try and use the operation multiplication there. So try and write times 2 in this expression. So we've got 50 times 2, which leaves me with 100. If you had 50 plus 50, that's still correct. All right, with F, it says the product of 2 and 3 tripled. So there's actually 2 steps in this one. Let's focus on the first part, the product. Product means multiplication. So I've got to multiply 2 and 3 and get the product and then triple that answer. So let's do that first. So the product of 2 and 3 would be 2 times 3. But for my expression, I'm going to write it all on one line. And to triple a number, we know we can just times it by 3. So I'm going to write times by 3 in the same number sentence. I don't need brackets for this one because everything's being multiplied. When we learn order of operations, we'll look at more examples. But if you did have brackets around the 2 and 3 to say, I'm going to multiply 2 and 3 first and then triple that, that's correct as well. And now 2 times 3 would be, I'll just squeeze it over here, would be 6. So equals 6 times 3. Now I'm going to triple 6. So 6 times 3 is 18. So there's our answer for that one. All right, question 2. Here we are multiplying by powers of 10. Calculate the following without an algorithm. Whenever a question says without an algorithm, they're asking you to do it mentally or in 1 or 2 steps. So follow a quicker process rather than setting up an algorithm. Now, we are multiplying powers of 10. We also know what powers of 10 mean. They are numbers that have a 1 and zeros. So that's got 1 and 3 zeros, that's got 1 and 1 zero, and so on. So these are all being multiplied by powers of 10. And when we have questions like this, it's pretty easy to work these out. We don't need an algorithm, and we've learned the trick in class. All we have is really 31 times 1. So the 31 will be in my answer. And even with this one, 105 times 1, 105 will be in my answer. And the same for all the others. If I go to the others, it's 8,002 times 1. So that will be 8,002 in my answer. And here, 123 times 1, I will have 123 in my answer. Now, the last step is to calculate how many zeros are at the end, or just count rather. So that's got 3 zeros at the end. And I add them on to my final answer. So instead of 31, I now have 31,000. And that's done. Here I had 1 zero, add it on. So now I have 105 and a 0 there, which gives me 1,050. Practice putting commas in as well. So 1, 2, 3, comma, that's 1,050. Over here, I add, now this has 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. So add on those 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm left with 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma. So I just squeeze it in there. That's 80,020,000. And the last one, I've got 123. Add those 2 zeros, and it leaves me with 12,300. Now, with 3, it's very similar, but it says here we are multiplying by multiples of 10. So multiples of 10 can include powers of 10, but it can include any number with a 0 at the end. So I can have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, all the way to infinity. And here I've got a multiple of 10 that's got a 2 there, so it's 2,000, that's 900. They all have zeros at the end, so they're multiples of 10. Now to work these out, it's the same process as multiplying by powers of 10, except there's an extra calculation we have to do. And that is multiply your non-digit zeros. So 2 times 2 will give me a different digit. I can show you some working out for the first one. I'll just do it here to have more space. So just to show the steps, I'd have 2 times 2, and with these 3 zeros at the end, I can write them as 1,000. So times by a power of 10, which is 1,000. And then 2 times 2 is just 4 times 1,000. And 4 times 1,000, just like before, I write my 4 down and add those 3 zeros. So 1, 2, 3. So I've got 4,000. Now, we don't have to include all those steps. This is just breaking it down just so we can see it a bit better. So for the next ones, let's try and do it just by writing the answer. So here I've got 11 times 900. Ignore the zeros. What's 11 times 9? 99. Add those 2 zeros at the end, and I now have 9,900. Let's try the next one. So I have 2 zeros at the end, but I'm left with a 12 and 11 there. So 12 times 11 is 121. And don't forget to add those 2 zeros at the end, and that gives us 12,100. And the last one here, we've got 4 times 120. So if I ignore that 0, it's 4 times 12. 4 times 12 is 48. Add that 0 at the end, and I've got 480. And that's it. Now, number 4 says calculate the following without a calculator. And we notice we're multiplying more than more than 2 numbers. So the best way to approach these ones is to work from left to right, just so we don't miss out on a number. So here I'm going to start on this end. You can use arrows to help you. 2 times 2 is 4. Now I've got my 4. I have to multiply it by the next 2. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. And 16 times 2 leaves me, so double 16. So 16 plus 16 is 32. So the final answer was 32. So over here, let's try B. I'm going to go left to right again. If you did go 5 times 2 is 10 and a different way, that's fine. We know order does not matter when multiplying. But I'm going to go left to right. So 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 5 is 30. And 30 times 2, so double 30. 30 plus 30 is just 60. So I got 60 for that one. All right, number 5 says, here we are multiplying by multiples of 10. Calculate the following without an algorithm. So once again, we're going to try and do these quickly and with 1 or 2 steps. Now, we are multiplying 3 numbers here, so more than 2 numbers. And I also noticed that these all have zeros at the end as well. So the trick with these is if you ever got a 0 at the end, we can write these zeros at the end of our final number. So ignore them for now. So if I break up this question, all I got to do, just like the previous question, is multiply the non-digit zeros. So 2 times 2 times 2 first. Work that out, and then I've got 3 zeros to add on at the end. So 1,000 is there. All right, so that would be my working out. Now, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. So I'm left with 8 times 1,000. Oops, sorry, that's a 0. And just like multiplying by powers of 10, we just write 8 and 3 zeros. And there's my final answer. Sorry, that's a 0. So we can get from here to here without having to write these steps down and doing it mentally. So let's practice with the next one. So the next one, I can see there's 2 zeros at the end, 3 zeros at the end, and 2 zeros at the end. So my final answer will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zeros at the end. Before I add on those 7 zeros, let's multiply the non-digit zeros. So 1 times 2 is 2. So 1 times 2 is 2, and 2 times 3 is 6. And then add on those 7 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's put our commas in. So starting from this end, 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3, comma, and there's my answer. And try and read that number, and it should be 60 million. All right, just a few more questions. So now it says this question here, it's supposed to be number 6. So I forgot to write the number. So number 6, and that will be 7. So number 6 says, calculate the following using your knowledge of place value and expanding numbers. All right, so we're not using an algorithm, and they want us to use our knowledge of place value and expanding numbers, which we have done at the beginning of the term. So a way to approach it is I can break down 42 as 40 plus 2, okay? And that, I'm going to put brackets around it because that is still 42. So 40 plus 2 is still 42, and I am still multiplying the 40 and the 2 by 3. So brackets make sure we multiply both the 40 and 2 by 3, but I'm going to do it separately. So my next step will be, all right, I'll do 40 times 3 first. So 40 times 3, and I still have plus in the middle, and I must go 2 times 3 as well. So plus 2 times 3. Now I can put brackets around these to make it a bit more clearer. So all I've done is I have broken up 42 as 40 plus 2, and I'm still multiplying them both by 3. So 3 times 40, and that will by doing that, it helps us to work it out mentally. So I can do this in my head. 40 times 3, well, 3 times 4 is 12, and add the 0, which is 120 now. Plus is still in the middle. 2 times 3 is 6. And now what's 120 plus 6? 120 plus 6 is just 126. So this just helps us to, whenever we have questions like this in real life, it's a way to work it out mentally, just to break it down in an easier way. All right, try 31 times 4 yourself, and we'll do it together. So 31 times 4, I know 31 can be broken down into 30 plus 1. That's still 31. And I'll put brackets around it just to say, yep, that's still 31. And I've got to times them both by 4. So it'll be 30 times 4 and 1 times 4, or other way around. So let's write 30 times 4, and then plus the 1 times 4. And we can put brackets around those. So now I'm left with 30 times 4. I can do this mentally. 3 times 4 is 12, and add the 0. So 120, which is the same product as 40 times 3, plus 1 times 4 is just 4. So I'm left with 124. All right, and now with our last section,